At the time the Clearwater was being built, I was working on boats in the summer and doing concerts and touring in the winter. And somehow the Seegers heard of me and asked me to join, and it sounded like fun to help get her rigged and ready for sea and get her to New York. I think in the winter before we did a benefit or two. I know we did one in Orono, Maine, at the university there. But the next summer, they were getting ready to launch her. I went down and helped to work on a rig, and Captain Onapu was there, and so I was working with him. And Cy Cousins, who designed that boat, had done a really good job of putting together, figuring out how the traditional boat should look and work. And he didn't have much to go on. There was only one of those type of boats still existing, and she was right in my own dooryard. As a matter of fact, one of my first jobs on a boat was on her, and I sailed her for two different owners. She was the same hull pretty much as the Clearwater, Hudson River brick schooner called the Stephen Tabor. And about when they built the Clearwater, the Tabor was over 100 years old at the time, and still sailing without an engine, carrying passengers now. But the difference was Clearwater's job was not going to be, she wasn't going to be run by professionals. She was going to be run by volunteers, and mostly amateurs are going to be aboard of her. And so Alan and I got looking at that rig and realized that the traditional boats had one single topping lift to hold the main boom up. And that boom was like 50, 60 feet and that big in the middle. I don't know what it weighed, but I wouldn't want it dropping on me. And plus all that sail above it. And that's just not the kind of thing you drop dripping wet on the deck with a bunch of volunteers there. So we put coaster lifts on it, one on each side of the boom, which are just wire shrouds, you might call them, but topping lifts. And then a series of lines coming down and under the sail called lazy jacks. And as the name might imply, it made dropping that sail and handling that sail a whole lot easier. You could drop that whole thing, slack a sheet off, drop that whole thing, and be done with it. It's out of the way. You don't have to deal with it until you want to. So we did that, and they had it was traditional to have a big boom on the jib, and that was a big jib, and that it was low cut, so it was swinging low across the foredeck there. And just the thought of that slapping into some volunteer who couldn't move fast enough just scared me. So I talked him into getting rid of that. And the rest of it, she just sort of showed us what she needed to make herself work. And little things like we let out the main once with the topsail up in it, came against the topmast spreader, the shroud spreaders, and busted one off. So Louis Killen and I went up and made another set, just as long, same length, but they attached by one single bolt into the cross trees. And that let the whole thing swing forward and kind of cushion that main. And as far as I know, that's still working. All in all, Cy did a good job of designing that boat. And so as a result, we had a pretty benign trip down there. The only time there was any trouble was when we were sailing along the north shore of Long Island, and we were heading west, and this double-decker motor yacht came out of one of those harbors. It might have been Port Jefferson. It was in that area anyway, and he was on a collision course with us. Well, we figured that out, but we were blowing our horn and stuff like that because we had the right of way, being sail and also in the aspect we were to him. Well, he wasn't paying any attention, and finally, I think Ellen said, "There's nobody steering that thing." So we made as quick a maneuver as one can in a boat going slow that size, and we just kind of bumped. Well, this guy come up on deck, and he was all aflutter. He didn't like that. He thought we'd snuck up on him, 8 stories tall and 8 stories wide. We really snuck up on him. But he told us he'd been in the kitchen. So we made a mental note to keep our eyes open in those areas. Anyway, we got her to New York, doing concerts along the way, and I wasn't hired as mate. They had another young fella there that they'd brought up from Connecticut, I believe, and but it turns out that he was a lot more comfortable with that big engine they put in there than I was, and I was a lot more comfortable with that big rig than he was. So we just swapped jobs, and we took her to the Hudson. That's all they hired me to do, was to get her to New York. And I did that, and that was fine. But then they asked me to go on up to Albany, and I'm really glad they did, because I had more time with the musicians at that time. People were more familiar with the boat. There was less to worry about, and it was fun working that river and singing the songs. And I thought, I could get used to this. I wonder if I could keep doing this. Turns out I could. Here's a song I learned on another boat. She was a Brixham trawler called Provident. And we took her from Plymouth, England, down to Lisbon, Portugal, in 1964, I believe. And I learned a song on her. Johnny Todd, he took an ocean for to cross the ocean wide, and he left his own true love behind him, walking by the Liverpool side. For a week she wept with sorrow, tore her hair and wrung her hands. Then she met another handsome sailor, walking by the Liverpool sands. Why, fair maid, are you weeping for your Johnny gone to sea? Johnny's gone, but I am here beside you. I will kind and constant be. I will buy you sheets and blankets, I'll buy you a wedding ring, and you shall have a little golden cradle for to rock the baby in. Johnny Todd's come home from sailing on the ocean wide, and he's found his little false and fair one was another sailor's bride. So all young lads who go sailing for to fight the foreign foe, never leave your love Where do you go, little herring? What do you see, tail and fin? Blue and green, cold and dark, seaweed growing high, hills 100 fathom deep, where the dead men lie. Dogfish eyes and mackerel's eyes, and they hunger after me. Net or where, I don't care, catch me if you can. Where do you go, little boat? Tar and timber, plank and sail. I go to green bays, lift them under me. Cold gray combing seas come to bury me. Rocky jaws and stony claws, and they hunger after me. Harbors cold and deep and bold, I wish that I could see. What do you seek, fisherman? Poor old sailor, blood and bone. Mackerel skies, mare's tails, reef and furl and steer. Poor haul and hungry days, rotten line and gear. Snow, wind and winter gales, and they hunger after me. Net or where, I don't care, catch you if I can. Where have you gone, little herring? What have you seen, tail and fin? Cold and black, dead and dark, seaweed torn away. Draggers stabbing everywhere, drugless garden dry. Pear trawl, mid-water trawl, Lord, they hunger